powered by Shopify. Start selling online today. Sign up for a free trial.
In the communities it serves through its Lowe's Hometowns program, which invites people from across the country to nominate their hometown projects in need. Each year from 2022 through 2026, Lowe's Hometowns will complete nearly 1,800 community impact projects across the country. Find details on Lowe's Hometowns project at lowes.com/hometowns and at hashtag Lowe's Hometowns on social media.
This is Greeny.
And I do not think it is beyond the pale to suggest that Judge's number, his mark, that it could be in the record book as a record without defaming, ignoring, or otherwise discrediting Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs in a season. We cannot pretend it didn't happen.
Greeny with Mike Greenberg. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Plus, you can watch and listen on the ESPN app. Did you miss Canty and Carlin?
The Philadelphia Eagles, 54 runs plus completions. Anytime your offense can give you 50 runs plus completions, you're in pretty good shape. They controlled the complexion of the game from the opening kick. Now, the Cowboys had their moments, especially early on in the second half, but ultimately there was never a point where I felt like the Philadelphia Eagles were out of control of the game, and that's the sign of a good team.
Canty and Carlin, weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio. You can also listen and watch on the ESPN app. Bart and Hahn.
Because this is my concern with the Bears and where they're at. I get concerned that Justin Fields, by the time they get a good enough team, may be ruined. Some of those hits, he can get up and act like he's doing push-ups and all that stuff. I don't imagine him being able to get to the end of the season healthy like that. He's not Cam Newton. I feel like he's taking a step back once again in another offense 2 years in a row. We've seen a much better player at Ohio State.
Bart and Hahn, weekdays at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app. Bart and Hahn.
Because this is my concern with the Bears and where they're at. I get concerned that Justin Fields, by the time they get a good enough team, may be ruined. Some of those hits, he can get up and act like he's doing push-ups and all that stuff. I don't imagine him being able to get to the end of the season healthy like that. He's not Cam Newton. I feel like he's taking a step back once again in another offense 2 years in a row. We've seen a much better player at Ohio State. Because this is my concern with the Bears and where they're at. I get concerned that Justin Fields, by the time they get a good enough team, may be ruined. Some of those hits, he can get up and act like he's doing push-ups and all that stuff. I don't imagine him being able to get to the end of the season healthy like that. He's not Cam Newton. I feel like he's taking a step back once again in another offense 2 years in a row. We've seen a much better player at Ohio State.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. What?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, what?
Just bring him in. Bring Todd in. All right, so we've got Todd Frazier in here because I'm hoping that he might be the one person who will offer a defense of my main man, Hembo. So, Todd, I want to make sure you can hear. Todd Frazier, who is, of course, a longtime Major League Baseball player and has now been doing analysis for us the last couple of days on Get Up. I set up in front of that. Get that microphone right in front of your face there, Todd, and make sure you can hear me. How is everything going?
Everything's good, man.
Okay,
I'm having a blast.
So, we're delighted to have you. So, yesterday, he gave a take that the Yankee fans should want to play the Astros in the next round because of the history between the two, because of the cheating, which has been documented that the Astros did to knock them off a few years ago, despite the fact that he himself acknowledges that the Yankees would have a much better chance of beating Seattle than they would of beating Houston.
Listen, I was talking about it earlier. As we said, I was a part of that whole thing.
Right.
And there's nothing more than I want is to play the Houston Astros and finally beat them as a player. And I think the judges of the world and the guys that have been there and have played against the Astros and understand beating them would silence everybody. But if they don't make it there, okay, then that's Houston's fault. You can't say, oh, well, you didn't beat Houston, you won a World Series, blah, blah. As a fan, I want Seattle. At the end of the day, if I'm a fan, I want Seattle because that's the easier road. But as a player inside, I think I'd want to take Houston on, or as a player inside, I want to take Houston on and finally take them off the mountain.
So, Hembo, do you feel buoyed in any way by Todd Frazier's validation?
Absolutely, 100%. And this was a man on that team.
Why do you have a garbage can on the table?
Just as a visual reminder of what the Houston Astros did in the 2017 ALCS in order to beat the New York Yankees. Right. I just want to have this here as a prop.
Bang it a little bit so people can hear it.
That's a curveball. That's a fastball. Change up.
Right.
That's what those guys did.
Josh Harris will snap it. That's good. Scott puts it down. That's good. The kick is good. And the Chargers win it in overtime.
Hopkins wins it for the Chargers in overtime, 19-16 over the Broncos. Hopkins was 4 for 4 on field goal attempts Monday night. There were 5 possessions in overtime and 0 first downs. Justin Herbert becomes the second quarterback since 1950 with 55 pass attempts and 0 passing touchdowns in a win. Only other guy to do it, Warren Moon, so he's in good company. He did it in 1991. The road to the World Series goes through ESPN Radio. Coverage of Yankees and Guardians Game 5 begins 3:30 p.m. Eastern, followed by Game 1 of the National League Championship between the Padres and Phillies. Coverage starts at 7:30. Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz underwent surgery Monday in Los Angeles to repair a broken finger on his throwing hand. Wentz was informed by doctors that he's looking at a 4-week recovery timeline, a source told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Washington has yet to decide whether to place Wentz on injured reserve, which would require him to miss at least 4 games or not. SportsCenter is presented by Progressive Insurance. For a job you'll love, visit progressive.com/careers.
I'm the smartest guy in the box, so I like that too.
Keys Real Rankings.
Keyshawn, J. Willimax, ESPN Radio. Keys Real Rankings are brought to you by Dell. For your small business needs, call a Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Key, what you got?
Well, let's start off first. Last week, I had 8. Now, this week, I only got 5. Last week, I had the 8, but now I'm paring it down to 5. Baltimore,
You're
Dallas.
talking about the best teams in the NFL.
The best teams in the NFL. Baltimore, Dallas, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philly were part of that 8 from a week ago. But now we're going to start a whole new list in week 6. The teams that have the ability, as we stand today, to win it all. Yates, take it off.
Number 6.
Number 6, you should be happy, Max. Your team was sitting at 8 last week. The New York Giants, they move up to number 6.
Yay!
Pretty good.
With a 50-1 odds to win it all. They've certainly been playing great football. Daniel Jones looks like he's bought himself a new contract. We'll ask Mike Tannenbaum, our general manager, what he thinks. Saquon Barkley is. Either way, we